Welcome to the Evolvepreneur AI Advantage Show, and I'm your host, Richard Wray. My mission is to help entrepreneurs understand AI and use it to their advantage. Join me today where we dig deep with our guest and get you the best concepts and strategies. Today's special guest is Joey Chandler. Joey is a core values coach and uses AI to send custom emails to clients that combine their core values, a goal, and a desired trait to help them keep moving forward. Today, we're talking about humanizing AI with your core values. Joey, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Really great to have you here, Joey. And got to ask you, like I ask all my guests, Joey, where in the world are you?
I am in San Rafael, California, which is about 20 miles north of San Francisco.
Fantastic. So Joey, tell us a little bit about yourself and the sort of services that you offer.
Yeah, so I'm a core values coach. I help business people and individuals figure out who they are at their core and then how to be more of that. And I believe that given just the massive amount of opportunity along with the related uncertainty that we're facing these days, knowing who you are and be really clear upon that is just really helpful. And I've been doing it for a few years, but it became really obvious the importance of this when AI exploded, it's been about a year ago. And I started exploring it. And one of the big things that I noticed is that it's really easy to get lost in AI. Like you start to feel like you're just a prompt, I'm here to prompt AI, make something wonderful, create this copy. And I found myself getting lost. And so what I started doing was I started saying, hey, what are my core values, which are courage, connection, and curiosity? And I started to use those as a foundation for AI. And the content that I got back became more aligned with who I am and how I sound. And it just allowed the AI to become a tool that I was using rather than feeling like AI was using me.
And so would this be something you would have done in the past with maybe a coach yourself, but this time you've got ChatGPT in front of you and you can just do as many variations of this as you want?
I'm not exactly, because, AI is so new. Like, I have no idea how, who knows what would have happened had we not been here. Mm-hmm. But what I've just started doing is that I get very clear on my core values and I started putting them in. And now, especially using the AI customization instructions, I have a whole series that's all based on me. So now I say, write a newsletter for my, for whatever. It knows how I operate. It knows my core values. It knows the way, the whole approach. And so the emails and the content that's coming out is just more, I'm going to say, more human. It sounds more like me than when I don't use that.
So essentially, you've used ChatGPT to create a digital twin of yourself that you can generate content from, and you make sure it's good, but it's got a great starting point. You don't have to constantly keep telling it over and over again, do this, do that. It's already got that information and a great baseline to work from.
Yeah. It's like a really good copy. It's like a copy person or even a coach who knows who you are, who understands what you're trying to accomplish and what your background is, and then is able to create content based on that.
That makes a lot of sense. So the custom instructions, that's actually just in the settings on the bottom left-hand corner of ChatGPT.
Yeah, that's the custom set. And what I started doing for my clients is, so I help people with core values, and we figure out the core values. And what I found is that when working with core values, you don't need lots of heavy coaching. Like, we don't need to meet every week and spend 2 hours diving through what you should or shouldn't do. Because one, people are too exhausted for that anyway, and it's not much fun on the coaching side. But what I found is that people need a little nudge, a little reminder, a little, hey, can you take some actions? Just remember, here are your core values and take some action. And on my birthday was October 29th. And I started doing a TikTok program where I said, you know what, I'm going to every day on TikTok for the next year, I'm going to talk about my core values and just say, hey, here's what I'm learning. And so it was, day 1, day 2, day 3. And I went through it all and I was like, you know what, I need a reminder. I need a little something for myself to get me thinking, because I was finding myself a little bit, bored with my own content. And so the email system that I have for my coaching program has a ChatGPT hook. So I started plugging it in. I said, okay, ChatGPT, here's my core values. Give me a quote, give me some inspiration back. And I just kept playing with it. And now I have this really nice tool where I work with a client, we figure out their core values, we figure out a goal that they want to accomplish, like find a job, lose weight, increase sales, something of that sort. We ask them what's the next step that they're going to take and what's the value of that, in dollar figure. What is it? And then we put all that together, and then ChatGPT I send it over there, it sends it back, and I send them a daily email, and it works really well. I found myself giving myself coaching because it just gives me a little prompt to say, hey, here's your core values. And the nice part about AI is that it's able to take that information and tweak it a little bit each day, so it's a little bit different. And obviously, I could never have done that by myself.
Certainly not in the volume that you hopefully are working with.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, even with one person, if I had to write an email every day with someone's core values and everything, like I would have gotten bored, like, as I was writing it. But what the really nice thing about AI does is it goes, and the beauty of it, the thing that I love from the coaching perspective is, have you ever had a coach where you told them that you were going to do something and then you didn't do it and you felt bad, like giving them a call?
Yeah, absolutely.
AI doesn't care about that. AI sends you a prompt. It's like, hey, can you do, here's your goal, here's the stuff. Why don't you go try this? And you can say like, oh, that sounds like a good idea or not. And then you go do it or not. And the AI sends a prompt the next day, and it sends the next day after that. And so it allows you to keep taking baby steps. And with core values, it's all about baby steps moving forward.
So you actually use it as a significant part of a creative process in that respect, in that you have, obviously everybody is unique. And everybody's got that, back catalog of knowledge which you've put into common instructions or whichever process you're using. But every day, AI is coming up with unique messaging based on their core values, and it's a reaffirmation, I would say. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It's a little reminder, just like, hey, your core values are X, Y, Z, and I always put things in sets of 3. So we have 3 core values, and it just gives a little reminder. And I find that's what people need. We don't need a lot of coaching. We need like a reminder, your core values are whatever they are. How can you use them today? And because they're true to us, you can tap into it, take some action, and move forward. And it works really well. And then people call me up and say, hey, I feel really stuck in this area, and we'll do it, we'll hop on a call and we'll work through it. But for the most part, once, after a couple of calls and when I get them grounded in it, you just keep using it each and every day, and they'll call me up like, oh my gosh, this thing reminded me of courage. And it was, I include a quote. I asked ChatGPT to include a quote from somebody famous. So it's a little bit inspiration. And they're like, this quote was perfect. And because everything is based on their core values, it feels very, very custom to them.
Do you ever add your own custom instructions to your clients? So they've got the section which is, this is me. And then there's, this is what Joey would say.
No, it would take two. It wouldn't be scalable on my part.
Understood.
It wouldn't be. And really, the beauty of core value coaching, and I think this is why this is so important. The main coaching for anything is to say, hey, what are your core values, and how can you use them today to help you achieve your goal? Like that's pretty much all I ask people, and the goal is to help build up their own sense of what I call your core muscles, to use your own core values to go forward. So the prompts work. And like I said, if they feel stuck, if they need that little extra support, or we can get on a call and do a more thorough check-in.
Fantastic. So you're now reaching out and helping more people than you could possibly have done before through the use of AI.
Yeah.
How are you actually going about automating this? Are you still doing a certain amount manually, or are you managing to do a lot of it through some form of automation?
Yeah, so people basically fill out forms. They come in, I have a process where I help them identify their core values. And the very first thing that I do with any client is we identify their core values, and then we do what I call a year in review. And we look back to say, okay, hey, where were all your successes this past year? And where did your core values show up? Where were your disappointments or your struggles or your failures? And what aspects of your core values were missing in that? And by doing that, they just get grounded, like my core values are true. I may not be present from in all places, but they're real. And then we can ask, okay, what's the goals that you want to accomplish this next year? And which of your core values do you think would help you? And from that list, we choose one item that goes into a form along with their core values, and that ends up driving the whole thing.
I want to get into the exact process or some of the experiences that your clients have had. But before we do that, what would you say the ratio is between if you didn't have AI to do this style of work and now that you've got AI, so have you managed to increase the amount of people you can help tenfold, or you've doubled it, you've quadrupled it? What would you say?
Hmm. Well, I mean, it's exponential. Like I made my number, like if you look at my numbers, it's, I have 15 clients right now that are using the system, but I literally just developed the system a month ago.
Okay.
And so,
But in the space of a month, though, you've literally got 15 clients, and to do this amount of work with one person.
But well, I mean, here's the thing that actually is the thing that is the biggest difference is that it's giving coaching to myself. I get my emails each morning, and my emails coach me on how to, like, my core values are courage, connection, and curiosity. The email today was focused on connection. And I was like, how can I connect? I'm like, oh, I got this podcast. Like, hey, and I actually went back and it reminded me to go listen to 2 or 3 of your episodes so that I felt grounded and connected. And in all of that, it helped. And now that 50, I'm now at 51 days of that TikTok. I wouldn't have been able to do that. So the biggest thing that I can say more than growth is that it's helped me grow personally. And as a coach, to be able to coach yourself, I think is a pretty interesting, a pretty powerful tool.
What you mentioned there with TikTok, the 51 days, I know so many people, and I've fallen into this trap myself, saying, oh, I'm going to do X for this amount of time. And you feel confident. But it actually becomes a bit of a millstone around your neck. Oh my goodness, I've got to come up with another idea for tomorrow. And ChatGPT and AI can really help with that sort of thing.
Yeah, and this is where combining your own core values with ChatGPT is really helpful. I can plug in and say, hey, my core values are courage, connection, curiosity. Give me any number of things to talk about. I can talk about, here's where I struggle with my core values. How could I use that in context? Where, who are other authors or, thought leaders who talk about courage, connection, and curiosity? And I can use that as inspiration. And because it's grounded in my core values, the information becomes more real. And the beauty of it is that I grow as I'm doing it.
So you are living the process. You're not just delivering the process, you're living it yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I wake up every day and I'm like, how do I bring courage? Like I have a really good friend of mine, someone who I knew very well in high school that has become a very, very famous, a musician. And I haven't talked to him in a while. And I'm thinking that my process might help creative people. And yesterday was the courage theme. It was like, who could you reach out to? And I'm like, I got to call my buddy. And so that was me getting sent a little Facebook message. I haven't heard back from him. But the fact that I did that was a combination of my core values and ChatGPT saying, hey, here's a little nudge, go do something that you know to do that would help your business.
So this really is, enhancing almost the humanity of it, using AI, and you're rediscovering potentially core values, reaching out to people that you would never reach out to, like you say, your buddy who's the successful musician, and it's just enhancing your life overall. It's not a scary thing.
No. It's just giving you little nudges. That's the part. It's all about baby steps. It's not saying, hey, redo everything. It's just helping you be, and it's helping me and my clients do the things that we know to do. We all know those things. Like, I think most of us, we don't need more information. And we now know with ChatGPT, we can get any amount of information. It's a matter of actually putting it to use. And I find combining core values with AI just gives you that extra prompt so that you take action. And any action you take that's in alignment with your core values and in service of a goal is worthy of celebration and will help you move forward.
That sounds like a really great way of doing things. So give me some examples of how you've actually helped your clients and, the process that they've gone through. You've described, they fill in the forms, come in and you work with them. Give us some of the big wins, some of the success stories that have happened already, even in such a small amount of time.
Yeah. So I have one guy he went through a divorce a couple years ago, and he's like, I want to help other men who have gone through this. And honestly, he has found himself in kind of a negative space, talking about how horrible relationships are and how, and that message gets a lot of traction on TikTok.
Yep.
It gets a lot of
Misery loves company.
But yeah, exactly. But when I talked to him, and I knew him from, before this, I'm like, I don't think that's who you are. Like, I don't know you to be that negative person. And he's like, you're right. But he just didn't. But TikTok kept driving all that negativity and rewarded him for it. And I just was like, man, like, and so we ended up working together. And the beauty of we sat down and we said, okay, what are your 3 core values? And I'm not going to go through them. I'm going to keep it private. But here are the 3. He came up with his 3 core values, and he was really stuck. He's like, how do I create a program that's positive when I got all this, kind of negativity? It's not his word, but it's like, I want to meet people where they are and help them go. And we said, okay, what are your 3 core values? We break them down. And within about 15 minutes, we had created a program that said, okay, and like, I don't know how to say it without it, but basically, like, each of his core values became a step in his program.
Right.
So we help him get grounded, they help him grow, and then take action. And he was able to be like, oh my gosh, and here's the real beauty of it. He started to see how he could use his program to help him get unstuck and help him get more positive. And so now he's using his program to keep moving forward, which gives him more confidence and grow his sense of value. And that was the thing that he wanted. He said, if I had a greater sense of self-worth and greater sense of value, and by getting clear on his core values and by using them to create the framework of the program, he was able to go out and start charging people, saying, hey, here's this program I want to create. Here are the 3 main pillars of the program. This is what I'm doing. And now he's out, talking to people and starting to charge them. And that happened within a couple of weeks because we got grounded in him and just used that process.
So it sounds like with a combination of yourself and the use of AI, he established the clarity, realized, who he truly was. And rather than negativity being projected, it was positivity. And the program that he came up with attracted people. Now he's got clients.
Yeah, he's getting there. He's I'm gonna say that, to be honest, he's selling clients. And he still has some negativity. I'm not saying
no. He's been through a divorce. It's it's understandable. Yeah,
this is not a miracle cure. But in talking to him, you can hear him going like, and the way he kept saying, he's like, man, this is so meta, because every time he would say, I'm really struggling here, I'm like, hey, where in your program, which of your 3 steps, which of your 3 core values would help you in that? And he's like, oh. And the thing that this really reminded me is that we so often look externally for advice, for wisdom, for, whatever. We hire coaches, we hire programs, we do all this stuff, when really we ourselves have the answers. And if we can tap into our core values and have a system to do that, we can come up with answers, find those baby steps, take action, and keep moving forward.
When you've been using AI, you've obviously shown this to a few people, or maybe you've seen other people using AI yourself outside of your work. Have you seen any common mistakes or common poor attitudes, we'll call it, in the way that people approach AI? It sounds like you've absolutely embraced it and you're doing some great things with it. What are the sort of common mistakes you've seen people make?
Well, I think the fundamental thing is not doing the work to customize it, to not say, okay, here's what I think AI is a great tool if you tell it how to think. Think from this perspective. And then it will give you good, solid answers. If you just say, give me an answer for XYZ, it will give you all sorts of answers, but they may not connect with you. They may not help you go into a direction. I had a great friend. She told me, you want to go vertical versus horizontal. You want to dive deeper into something. And so when you tell AI to speak from a particular voice, you're in a sense telling it to go deeper rather than wider. And with that, I think you just get a better result, a more usable result, something that's interesting, and not just that anybody, my teenage son could plug in most prompts these days.
You mentioned there using a specific voice. Can you break that down a little bit more?
Yeah. So what I do is I say, hey, these are my core values of courage, connection, and curiosity. This is how I use this. So please speak from that. I think you can go in and really say, this is who I am. And even if you don't do your core value work, you can say, this is who I am. This is what I want. This is the type of messaging that I want. I want people to feel motivated or inspired when they read my information, kind of telling it what you want. And the more you can tell it what you want, then it will give responses that are in alignment with that. And then I think at this point, everybody's AI is, it involves some tweaking. After you get it back, you got to do a little bit of refinement. But if you can get it at least close to you, then it becomes a far better tool. And I think it's really important because I think nowadays you can get really lost in AI. If you just start making prompts, and you're like, you can go down, I'm sure you've done it. You go down a rabbit hole, and all of a sudden you're like, you 2 hours later and you're doing these prompts. And I think in this world, especially where there's so much uncertainty, where our relationships, our jobs, our families, our living situations, where there's so much uncertainty, it can really trigger that uncertainty where I don't matter. It doesn't matter. I don't matter. All I'm doing is making prompts. Anybody can do this. But if you start to say, wait a minute, who I am at my core is this. These are my core values. AI becomes a tool that I use rather than me just falling into it and getting lost.
That's very interesting. So you're using AI rather than AI telling you what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And you hear this in I was listening to your, some of your guests, forget the idea of AI being human and this relationship between humans and AI and what we can do together. I think it's important that we as humans really understand who we are so that we are more effectively able to say, AI, do this. This is what I'm going to do. You do this. And so that we, can work together.
And we've got to maintain that we are in charge, of course. We've got to keep that in our minds.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a little bit like working, like if you and I were working together and we were coming on a project, I'd say, hey, here are my core values. I'd ask you what yours are. We figure out where the alignment is. And then the more that we were able to use those to work together, the more effective we would be. If I didn't say what my core values were and I was kind of keeping in my head and I'd be like, oh, man, that Richard guy's he's not honoring my boundaries, but I'm not speaking up about what those boundaries are, we're going to fall down. But that's on me to communicate that. And I think the more we can do that with AI, it's the more effective we're going to be.
And as we mentioned earlier on, you're never going to upset AI, but certainly not the tools we're talking about today.
Right. At least not for now. I'm sure there'll be some.
There are tools out there. There are applications where you can definitely have interesting conversations.
Yeah.
One of the issues that I've seen people come across is trusting AI. And, you're putting certain amounts of personal information into this system. Have you come across resistance from anybody you're working with regarding this?
Not yet. Not yet. And because all of my stuff is they're not really present to typing in they're answering questions. And I'm like, I'm going to use this to send you emails. So there's not this direct idea and the information, like, I put in courage, connection, and curiosity as my core values. Like, I don't feel like that's, I have an ownership of courage, connection, and curiosity. I know what they mean to me and they're going to mean different things to different people. But I think I haven't had that yet. But if I was putting in I think if you start to say, like, okay, here are the core values of our business, and here's a very, very specific thing that we're trying to solve using it, that might be, there might be some issues with that, but I haven't come across that yet.
Yeah, that's good news. So, Joey, as I like to ask all my guests, if there was one piece of advice that they should take away from our conversation today, what would it be?
Yeah. Know your core values. Get your core values down to 3 things. And I'll say this. I burnt out 2 years ago, really bad, just about this time. And one of the things that helped me recover is that I've heard a story about the Navy SEALs, the military branch here in the United States. And they put everything in sets of 3, because apparently when you're getting shot at, you can remember 3 things, but not more. I don't know if that's
not being there, so I can't say whether that's
can't say. But 2 years ago, I reduced my core values from 5 to 3, and it made an immediate difference because I could wake up every day and say, how can I bring courage, connection, and curiosity to my day? And it helped me recover from burnout. So I become a huge proponent. Get your core values down to 3, start to use them in your prompts, and so that you can create AI to have it be a tool that reflects who you are and you use it rather than a tool that absorbs you and create something that's not really true to who you are.
That's fantastic advice. Joey, where can people find you and what projects do you have that they should know about?
Yeah. You can go to joeychandler.net. And the thing that's there is that you can I have a very simple form that'll help you 3 core values. And you can actually download what I call my year in review worksheet. And it basically asks you those questions. Where you've been successful, what core values helped you there, where have you struggled, which core values were missing, and then what you want to plan. So with very, very little coaching, actually no coaching for me, but just the direction, you're able to say, here's my core values, here's where they show up in my life, and here's how I'm going to use them. And you can go forward from that. And what I'm doing for this going forward is I'm coaching people, and we're picking times, either whether it be 6 weeks or 6 months or an entire year. And we're saying, hey, if you spent this whole time exploring your core values, what do you think might be possible? And I can tell you it helps you increase your confidence and your energy and your motivation, but it shows up different for different people. So if anybody wants to have that like one-on-one, super hand-holded experience where they just get to know more about themselves, and go do the website thing and get in touch, and we can make that happen.
And I hope a lot of people do that, Joey, because I've got to be honest, with what I've seen today, I love how you're using AI to help people.
Yeah.
And it's really great.
Yes, thank you. This has been a great conversation.
Well, that's a wrap on another awesome guest episode for the Evolvepreneur AI Advantage Show. Just before you go, if you like this episode, we would be very grateful for a 5-star review. Please also consider recommending the show to a friend or two. Make sure you subscribe for future episodes at aiadvantage.show right now. Until next time, I'm Richard Wray, and if you're an entrepreneur, get the AI advantage today.